because this beautiful game of football brings some magical moments, last second thrillers, Cinderella runs, breakout young players, and more. There are some amazing comebacks in football history that everybody loves to point to when they're talking about it. Man U versus Bayern when Solskjaer scored the game-winning goal in the Champions League final during injury time. Troy Deeney's game winner after the PK for Watford in the championship playoff. Arsenal versus Reading going down 4-0 to come back and win 7-5 in League Cup 2012. And then one of the most memorable ones, the Barca comeback against PSG in the 2017 Champions League, where they scored 6 goals, including one in the 95th minute to win the tie 6-5. And that was after they were losing the first leg 4-0. But what if I told you that that was not the first time a team came back from a deficit like that? Because it wasn't. Toronto FC's 2009 team walked so that 2017 Barca team could fly. This is the story of the miracle in Montreal. A bit of background. The 2009 Canadian Championship was the second Canadian Championship in history after replacing the Voyageurs Cup in 2008. Only 3 teams participated in the 2009 Canadian Championship, and they were, I bet you could guess, Toronto FC of MLS, the Vancouver Whitecaps, and Montreal Impact, both from the USL 1. This tournament consisted of home and away fixtures for each team, creating a table where the team with the most points would win not only the championship, but most importantly, a spot in the 2010 CONCACAF Champions League. The game between TFC and Montreal was the last of this competition. Montreal had already been eliminated, losing all 3 of its matches to this point, and Vancouver was top of the table with 9 points from 4 matches and a +4 goal differential. Now, that goal differential is important because of the tiebreaker in this competition. And with TFC sitting on 6 points heading into the final day with a goal differential of an even 0, it meant that not only did they need to win the game against Montreal, but they needed to do it by 4 or more goals to earn a spot in the Champions League. This was a tough task, even for a TFC side with a vastly higher talent level. Such a tough task, in fact, that the Vancouver Whitecaps, who would play in Montreal in the USL a few days later, actually traveled to the stadium early to watch the game in person, expecting to be able to lift the trophy at the end of the match and celebrate their accomplishment. This TFC side was full of former MVPs and Goal of the Year winners like Dwayne De Rosario, former MVP and New York Red Bull legend Amado Guevara, and solid MLS talent like Chad Barrett and Danny Dichio. They would head to Montreal to play against a side that, to that point, put out a starting 11 with a combined 50 MLS appearances across just 3 players, 32 of which came from a player named David Testo. As Dwayne De Rosario put it in an interview, there was this feeling in the group that they had to win this game. It meant so much to fans who traveled to support them, to the city of Toronto, and to the club that they had to get a result here tonight. So on June 18th, 2009, they arrived at Saputo Stadium, got their tactics set, and kicked off with a single goal on the line. Win by 4 and win the championship. That high energy and massive feeling of desire from the beginning of the game was dampened really quickly in the 24th minute when Vancouver was awarded a penalty and converted, meaning that TFC needed to score 5 goals to complete the comeback and make it to the Champions League. Then, just 5 minutes later, something changed in the air thanks to yet another vintage De Rosario wonder goal. The corner comes in, it was headed back in his direction, and he acted on instinct, jumping in the air and striking the ball with a bicycle kick that flew towards the goal and in. TFC grabbed the ball from the net and sprinted back towards the halfway line with the feeling of, hey, you never know. 10 minutes later, Darrow has the ball inside the box again and fires it towards the goal. It deflects off the Montreal defender, past the Montreal goalkeeper, and in to make it 2-1. Every bounce seemed to be going TFC's way, and with every lucky deflection, the hope grew stronger. And as they emerged from the tunnel, at halftime, up a goal, but needing 3 more to advance, the TFC players shared the same mindset. If we go out swinging. And they didn't just swing. They swung for the fences. 4 minutes into the second half, it was De Rosario yet again, getting behind the back line on the right-hand side. He lined up a shot to the far post, which hit the bottom part of the Montreal goalkeeper's hand and snuck by him and in to the goal for De Rosario's hat trick. But the moments of individual magic would not be enough. It was 3-1 in the game, but they still had 2 more to go. With over 40 minutes still to play, the feeling was there. This is possible. The time ticked by, and it was 20 more minutes, making the feeling become a little bit more uneasy. That was until a Red Bull legend and former MLS MVP, Amado Guevara, stepped up to a free kick from 20 yards out. With his cultured right foot, he curled it past the diving goalkeeper to make it 4-1. The +3 goal differential would not be enough. They still needed one more. So they grabbed the ball from the back of the goal yet again, placed it on the spot, and ran it back. As time continued to run, it would take until the 82nd minute to see another chance. And in moments like these, you need players to step up and be bigger than the moment that they're in. In this instance, Amado Guevara and Chad Barrett were bigger than that moment. It's Guevara again standing over the corner kick. He floats it into the box for a waiting Chad Barrett, whose header is low and hard to the bottom right-hand corner past the goalkeeper. It's 5-1 with 8 minutes plus stoppage time to go. All they had to do was see this feat out. The bench area of Toronto was going wild with mixed emotions, half of them celebrating the goal that put them 1 foot into the Champions League, and the other half instructing them to stay defensively tight and to not let this slip. Not only did they see it out, but they added one more on top for good measure, another Guevara goal, to make sure that they sealed the deal. As the final whistle blew, elation struck as the benches of TFC cleared and celebration ensued. Darrow jumped into the arms of the traveling supporter as the rest of the team chased after him to celebrate with its fans, who sat through the rain and the wind to watch their team complete the most improbable comebacks in history, and none of whom left until the trophy was presented and lifted by their captain and player of the match, Dwayne De Rosario. And not to forget the cherry on top, they did this all with fellow Canadian Championship contenders Vancouver Whitecaps sitting in the stands, watching it all unfold, feeling like they were going to be the ones lifting that trophy at the end of the 90 minutes. In a bit of sour grapes, the Vancouver supporters started calling out Montreal, who ran out a squad of mostly reserve players for this final match by head coach Mark Dos Santos. But backup squad or not, this was a seriously impressive result, and one that those in attendance will remember for the rest of their lives. It was a game that set the tone for the Canadian Clasique in later years, in a rivalry that would give us tons more magical moments, which we will surely be covering in this series down the line. But for now, at this point in time in 2009, it was TFC with the bragging rights, TFC with the memories, and most importantly, TFC with the 2009 Canadian Championship and 2010 CONCACAF Champions League berth.